Serving the public, professional ethics. Professional ethics has never been safe from the pen of critics. But despite their bad rap, most professionals have at least some ethical grounding. After all, can you imagine a society in which lawyers, doctors, engineers, and journalists lacked even a minimal respect for ethics? It wouldn't be a very pretty picture, would it?
Exploring the ethics of work. By and large, ethical responsibilities at work are a lot like ethical responsibilities in the rest of life. After all, rejection and harm are just as wrong in the workplace as they are in your home or community. When people enter the workplace, they don't step into a magical portal where anything goes. In fact, in the professional workplace, some jobs require even more of your from an ethical standpoint. What these additional responsibilities are depends on your job or profession. Some people even choose life where they are called to use their professional skills on their days off. For example, doctors may receive patent case questions in the middle of the night. Lawyers unexpectedly may have to go to court to oppose motion. Journalists may have to drop everything to cover a story when it occurs, and so on. You never really go home from work in some professions. In addition to living up to standards in your personal life, professional ethics may require you to go above and beyond the call of duty. Your job may require you to follow more specific and difficult ethical standards.
Knowing the difference between jobs and professions. Sometimes work is just work. It simply pays the bill. This is often the case when one's job doesn't have a lot of effect on other people's life. But of course, there is no job that has no effect on people's life. But in some jobs, society expects more care from the people who take them on, and this is where professional ethics take the stage. A doctor, for instance, might operate with much more meticulous standards than a grocery store checkout clerk. This assessment isn't meant to patronize grocery stores' clerks, but it's clearly a slightly less demanding job than being, say, a brain surgeon. Making a bad decision involving broccoli won't likely leave someone paralyzed from the waist down. The jobs that require higher standards of conduct generally are called professions, as opposed to simply jobs or slightly more complicated trades. But defining a profession as simply not a job or trade isn't enough. The definition needs to explain what it is about professions that make them so special. Here are some of the principal characteristics that make professions unique from jobs and trades. Professions require a significant amount of training. The training generally requires some significant intellectual component. Professional works provide an important service to society. Professionals have a great deal of latitude to exercise the skills to protect the public. Often a profession fosters the networking of large groups of other professionals in the field, leading to the creation of professional societies like the American Medical Association for Doctors. These societies usually are in charge of fashioning the profession's ethics code and credentialing newcomers to the field. Professions aren't inherently better, more difficult or novel than other jobs, but the necessary place professions occupy in society allows professionals to cause much more harm than the average job or professions. This risk means any reasonably complex society just wouldn't function very well without professionals acting ethically.
Exploring the relationship between profession and society.
Professionals tend to have higher ethical expectations than individuals who work in trades or some other kinds of jobs for a couple important reasons. Professionals tend to earn higher salaries and status levels. Societies tend to pay professionals the big bucks because it's quite expensive to become a professional in the first place. They also receive a fair amount of status when becoming professionals. People in a society look up to and trust the people who hold this position. They even tend to be played by attractive actors on TV. However, in return for these benefits, society expects competence and ethical behavior on the part of professionals. Professionals tend to have more power. Because of the higher salaries, professionals are expected to exercise their roles responsibly. For example, you probably wouldn't want your artist friend, David, cutting up random people with knives. But if David happens to have gone to medical school to become a surgeon and use those knives in a serious environment to treat people, then all of a sudden his actions are alright. That is because David has become a member of a special class with extra responsibilities, and society can assume he takes those responsibilities seriously. In addition to responsibilities, professionals often gain rights and privileges to do what no one else in society can do. Try getting a permit with a couple of your buddies to build a skyscraper in Lower Manhattan, not gonna happen. And no matter how well you can argue this case in your living room, you are not allowed to legally defend your friend in a court of law without a license to practice. In other words, professionals experience a higher level of regulation in their work because their potential impact on society is so great. But for all the society that have this professional job, they need society just as much as society needs them. Some practice can be regulated by law, but the law can be in every professional's office. As a result, the professions have a duty to police themselves and hold their members accountable for unethical behavior.
Walking the line, what professionals are required to do. Professional work can be a bit daunting because of the tremendous power and responsibility society gives to a professional, and with these extra responsibilities and rights come difficult ethical decisions. Sometimes ethics requires professionals to do things that would be considered ethically wrong for non-professionals. Professional defense attorneys are ethically obligated to present the best possible case for their client, even if this defense is flying in the face of well-established facts. Furthermore, prosecutors in legal cases are required to share evidence with the defense, even if it would strengthen the defense's overall case. Outside of those professions, such codes of appropriate behavior may seem a little odd. Even when they aren't required to do things that breach traditional ethical standards, professionals often are required to go above and beyond what non-professionals would do. Examining two general problems in professional ethics. Working for two matters: conflict of interest. Professionals often find themselves in situations where they can enjoy benefits not available to the regular public. When someone's work stands to serve an interest in conflicts with their obligation as a professional, that people is experiencing a conflict of interest. Conflicts of interest are problematic for professionals because they threaten to undermine the impartial, trained judgments that take professionals so beneficial to society. The most common type of conflict of interest is when a professional is offered gifts or monetary bribes to sway her expert judgment. Professionals are better off by avoiding conflicts of interest because they must maintain the integrity of their professional judgment.
Not all conflicts of interest are quite as evident and as accepting money or gifts as a bribe. Some conflicts are more subtle. Of course, in certain cases, a professional may experience a conflict of interest and still behave ethically. Even when a conflict of interest won't necessarily lead to compromise professional judgment, professionals always should disclose the conflict of both interests. A conflict of interest itself may not always be the death of professional judgment, but hiding conflicts almost always signifies that something dubious is going on. At least when conflicts are disclosed, the people to whom were disclosed can monitor a professional's judgment for any sign of corruption. Simply informing the right parties in such a case that you may need to be watched a bit more carefully is the ethical thing for a professional to do.
Whistleblowing. Professionals rarely are lone wolves. Doctors work in groups or for hospitals. Lawyers can practice individually but usually work alongside one member in teams. So when the organization of professional workforce does something unethical that needs to come to light, plenty of people may feel an obligation to disclose the information to outside sources. When people bring this bad practice to light without the company's permission, it's called whistleblowing. Disclosing information about unethical activity may sound rather easy, but in real life the decision to blow the whistle is anything but simple. Generally, a professional is obligated to blow the whistle when the harm or ethical wrongdoing is serious in nature and will continue if not made public. The professional has exhausted all reasonable excuse for solving the problem within the organization. The professional has enough evidence to make a plausible case to the public. Whistleblowing can be noble and ethical necessary, but that doesn't mean that whistleblowers are always celebrated as heroes. Although the public may be thankful, whistleblowers often are met with anger and sadness from their colleagues and the industry. They are seen as violating a bond of loyalty and duty of confidentiality to one's team. Even though the law protects whistleblowers, in most cases, they often find it difficult to work in the same organization or industry after blowing the whistle. Professional ethics suggests that a duty to public safety comes first, but it can be difficult for organizations to appreciate this loyalty even when it happens to the public both. Hey, no one ever said professional ethics was the easy road.